For bearing with us as we get ready to go. Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to Tuesday Talk. I see we have a very large crowd, so you probably are interested in having an update on the vaccine. Of course, okay. So we'll get to that, and I do have some additional information to share about that, but I thought we would start this morning by looking at the numbers and taking a look at what's happening across the United States, and then drill down specifically Florida, Pinellas County, and then here at Regency Oaks. So we're going to transition to the board, and Lou, if you'll dim the lights, please. So the very first thing we're going to take a look at is the Florida resident hospitalizations. We're sitting at about 65,000. That's up from last week, as you may recall. This continues to be probably the largest concern that healthcare providers across the nation have, is whether or not we will have the healthcare capacity to take care of the increased number of new COVID cases. Here in Florida, we continue to do pretty well. Even down in the hard-hit counties, you can see the dark blue, Broward, Dade, Miami. Even in those counties, our hospital capacity, both in ICU and acute care beds and COVID units, continues to be manageable, and we have not had to look at outside sourcing for care. As we mentioned last week, we continue to have issues with skilled nursing and rehab beds. So you go to the hospital, with a COVID diagnosis, you receive treatment, inpatient treatment for 5 days, and then you're discharged typically to a COVID rehab bed for a period of time. Those beds are in very short supply. It is improved over last week, but we continue to have nearly full occupancy in the COVID-designated communities across the state of Florida. Briefly, we will look at the blended 30-day caseload. You can see on the top that the number of new COVID cases is continuing to decline. It spiked in the very early part of January, and it has been declining. You can also see that the morbidity rates, that's the chart on the lower right in white, that just continues to decline. And so that speaks to two good things about COVID. One, our healthcare providers have figured out how to treat COVID, and it's no longer the death sentence that it originally was. And so your chances of recovering are far better than what had happened back in February, March, April, before we had the therapy treatments and knew about the drug regimens and how to diagnose it early and provide rapid response to make sure that people never got to the critical point that might result in a morbidity. All right, Don, we're going to go to Florida testing, please. Filtered down to Pinellas County. And our positivity rate yesterday, the previous day, this looks 24 hours back, was about 11.4%. That's up a tiny bit from last week. Our 10-day average, although it's not on this chart, I looked at that this morning, and it's about 10.86. So it is showing a slight climb, but it's minimal. Maybe the better representation of that is to look at the red line graph on the bottom of the screen. You can see it was pretty stable from the 1st of December through almost the 20th of December. We saw a spike over the holidays. It jumped above that target range of 10%, and then it's been pretty stable since then. So good news. If you don't live in Florida, this is not what you are seeing in most of the other states. Florida continues to sort of be the exception to what's happening in the United States, in that our numbers are high. They are trending upward, but they are not out of control. The state of Florida through its healthcare providers, their state leadership, our COVID response teams. They're doing a good job of managing the spread of this virus. Don, let's jump over to health metrics. Okay, 4 charts that we look at every single week. The first chart, upper left-hand corner in the beige, those are the number of people who are presenting at hospital with influenza or flu-like symptoms. You can see it has been rising over the course of the last couple of weeks. That would make sense. We are in flu season, just the start of flu season. ED visits with COVID-like illness, and these are the presenting at hospital with COVID-like symptoms. We know that spiked there right after during the Christmas holidays, and we've seen a slight decline in the number of people who are presenting. It's different than the yellow graph in the upper right-hand corner because those are the number of documented new cases. And so if you're trying to say, well, gosh, the number of documented new cases seems to be rising faster than the people who are presenting at hospital with COVID-like illness, which seems to be declining, what's causing that discrepancy? And so the discrepancy is caused by the fact that people are figuring out how to diagnose and treat earlier, and it's preventing the hospitalization. So people are being successfully treated at home by their physician or in urgent care and not getting to the point where they require hospitalization. So again, that's a good thing that we should be thankful for. And then finally, the red chart on the bottom, the percent positive. This is the curative testing. It is not the antigen testing. The curative testing is the most reliable. It's a laboratory testing as opposed to a field test. You can see we are above that 10% range, but again, we see that stability over the last 7 days. And then just briefly, this is hard to get much of a visual image, but we'll look at the USA and World dot map. And sort of discouraging, but here's the good news about that. Look at that concentration, like Atlanta is just one dot right over another, and then you come down and you look at Florida, and that's pretty good. So Florida is looking good considering our population. When you go out and you look at like New Mexico and you say, well, gosh, New Mexico's doing really, really well, it's also a lower population. So you have to account for two things. And when you're looking at the dot mapping, it's the population density, and then you're also looking at the COVID infection rate within that area. So Florida continues to look pretty good. All right. Don, we track on a pretty routine basis. Here in the case in the state of Florida, yesterday we had, do the math, we had 23,000 cases of COVID reported, and this goes back to February 18th, which was the start of the tracking period. So it grew yesterday by about 1,600 new cases. That is really a significant improvement over last week. You may recall that last week we were looking at daily growth in the state of Florida of over 3,000 new cases a day. So in a single week, we've seen a reduction of about 50% in terms of new cases. And it doesn't appear to be an anomaly. It appears to be more of a trend when you look at it graphed out. In Pinellas County, we had a really good day. We went up about 400 cases in Pinellas County, and we had one COVID morbidity here in Pinellas County. Remember, there are over 1 million people in our county, so when you look at those numbers, those are really solid numbers and something that gives us some encouragement. In the United States, it continues to just be absolutely out of control. We had nearly 300,000 new cases yesterday, and the mortality rate is rising significantly as well. We're in day 104 of our phase 3 rollout, and we're stuck. So we were rapidly moving along in our plan to completely reopen the community, and we've sort of been stuck right here for the last 100 days as we've dealt with this resurgence of COVID. We looked at testing already. I did want to give the hospitalization rates here in Pinellas County. We have had 3,477 hospitalized. That's only 1,023 here in Pinellas County, our specific zip code. And yesterday in our specific zip code, there was only one resident in all of Pinellas County that was hospitalized because of COVID yesterday. So that's phenomenal. And the positive way of thinking of that is more people were hospitalized yesterday for flu, auto wrecks, cancer, heart attack, coronary issues, respiratory concerns. It was a really good day, and these numbers are continuing to decline. Now, that's not to say we should take our guard down, but it is to put it in perspective, because it's really easy to start thinking that there's not light at the end of the tunnel, where in fact that is not the case. The numbers are supporting some improvement. Specifically in our IL, we have 7 people under quarantine. The vast majority of those are post-hospitalizations. You go to the hospital, you come back, you have to go into quarantine. In skilled nursing, we have 39 people in skilled nursing, that's every resident, and in the AL, we have 26. And so everyone got my message yesterday. We did have an exposure in our assisted living and our skilled nursing over the weekend. And so when you have an exposure, everybody has to go into quarantine. And we do not believe there was anyone at risk yesterday in either the assisted living or skilled nursing, but we put everyone in quarantine. We also, over the weekend, had an exposure in independent living. And so you might be asking, well, why aren't we in quarantine? And here's the answer. The exposure that we had, the individual hadn't worked here for 2 weeks. And so the exposure happened when he was not on campus, and therefore he didn't have the opportunity to expose anyone. They were getting ready to come back from vacation, and as a requirement, we send you out for testing, and so you must test before you can come back, and that's where we caught it. So the protocols that are in place to protect you and us, and collectively all of us, they're working, and that's why they're there. COVID-like tests, either flu-like symptoms or testing in progress. We're looking really good in the independent living. There's not a single resident that we suspect of having COVID or flu-like symptoms. And then the skilled nursing, again, they're under quarantine, so it's sort of a different story. And then in the IL, we only have one additional staff member that we are tracking, but she is not in quarantine, and we believe it's probably going to turn out to be a sinus infection. We're waiting for test results. So our numbers look really good, and I think we're ready to go to the next chart. Lou, if you can.
Let's just face it, there is a lot of confusion about this rollout of the vaccination process, and it has not been handled particularly well. But in order to have the perspective of being able to evaluate what's going on, you need to understand what the criteria is. And so this is the published criteria here in orange. The governor issued an executive order, it's 2315, And he says that in his executive order, we're going to administer this vaccine based upon the following objective criteria. If you are in a long-term care facility, the long-term care facility residents and staff will be vaccinated, and this is the start of the rub. A long-term care facility, as defined in the state of Florida, is skilled nursing. It's nothing else. It's not assisted living. It's not independent living. It's not the other product lines in a CCRC. It's the definition of a long-term care facility is skilled nursing. If you are over the age of 65, and so let me just briefly talk about that. You probably have seen a couple of false starts where, I can go to Publix and get this, or I can go down and get it at Ruth Eckerd Hall. All I have to do is line up and sit in a car for 9 hours. And so some of this, so the governor says, okay, I want individuals to be able to get this, and some people can get it. If you call your physician, you have an underlying condition, he very well may be able to send you to a hospital and be able to get the vaccine. But generally speaking, for the larger public at large, even though you're age 65 or more, it's going to be very difficult for you to get the vaccine individually. It's not impossible. And if you're really, really persistent and are willing to invest those 9-10 hour days of waiting and fighting and really clawing your way into the system, you probably can get it individually. We are still not recommending that. Our approach, I'm going to talk about it in a minute, our approach is to let me do that fighting for you. And I'm confident I'm going to be successful. We're going to have some ups and downs. We're going to have some bumps in the road. We're going to have some obstacles that we don't anticipate. But at the end of the day, I think I'm going to have a better chance of helping get it for the community than you are to be able to go out and try to get it individually for yourself. Healthcare personnel with direct patient contact. I can report to you now that every single one of our staff members across all product lines has received all their vaccines or are in the process of receiving those vaccines if they chose to participate. Not everyone chose to participate. It's a little different than our flu response, and we can come back and talk about that if we have time. And then persons deemed to be extremely vulnerable to COVID-19 by hospital providers. And so that's the other thing I was just talking about. If you have an underlying health condition, you can go to your physician. Your physician at this point can probably get you into a hospital to receive this vaccine on an individual basis. But if you are asymptomatic, you show no symptoms, you have no underlying health condition like heart failure, diabetes, it's going to be very difficult for you to go that way. All right, so now that we understand what the objective criteria is, let's go and take a look at what's happening here at Regency. So,
What do you need?
next slide. Okay, so here are the concerns that we have. We know that there is a climbing positivity rate, and here is how that impacts you. There is a belief out there, and I'm not saying it's the right belief, but there's a belief out there that holding back the vaccine is the smart thing to do. And so healthcare providers are being very slow in releasing this vaccine. They want to hold back the second dose. So for every dose that they administer, they are taking one dose out of circulation, putting it in a locked unit, and holding it in reserve because they want to make sure that everyone who got the first shot has an opportunity to get the second shot. And what they're not taking into consideration is that there is a supply stream that is backing up the initial release of the vaccine. And so there is getting ready to CDC, along with the government. It's both the Trump administration and the incoming Biden administration is just getting ready to announce, and this should happen today if it hasn't already happened this morning. They're going to change that approach and start releasing these vaccines so that we can get them into arms. We don't need to have them sitting in storage where they're not available to people. The back supply will backfill the demand. Overwhelming the hospital system, again, that's not happening in Florida, thankfully, but it is happening in many, many states. And people who are very sick are not able to utilize the health services available in the community, and that's really impacting healthcare and the morbidity rates. Vaccinations, even though the skilled nursing centers, which are that's been the focus, it's a long-term care community, that's been the focus of the rollout ever since it started back on December 21st. Since December 21st, here in the state of Florida, they have only been able to vaccinate 16% of the residents in skilled nursing communities. Pathetic. Every single one of our skilled nursing and assisted living residents has been vaccinated, but statewide, these numbers are just appalling. Next slide. So, what about the vaccines? So, here's part of the problem that I believe is causing this problem. So, the vaccine clinics, they're run by a strike team. It's the Department of Health and it's the National Guard. The actual vaccines are managed by a third party, ADM, and they are contracted to bring out the vaccine for the clinic, and then the strike team administers it. The paperwork is handled by a third party contractor. The governor's involved in this. Leading Age, FLYCRA is involved in it. Walgreens, CVS is involved in it. The CDC is issuing guidance. The governor is issuing guidance. The National Health Institute, the national representative, is instituting guidelines. And so there is a lot of chiefs and a lot of disconnected parts that need to pull together in order to make this happen. And the communication between all these various entities has just not been good. And so I was on the phone with a guy by the name of Steve Banner. He is the CEO of Leading Age. He is our lobbyist. He's an attorney. He is one of our professional organizations that represents senior housing here in the state of Florida. And so this is what he said to me. And he said, Regency Oaks is not alone. Communities all across the state of Florida, CCRCs, are experiencing this. It's an ongoing source of frustration and inconsistency. The pharmacies continue to say that they will not vaccinate IL residents, even though the CDC has defined the CCRC as being an eligible provider, and even though the state and the governor had said that CCRCs would be provided. And so what happened last week is, we spur of the moment, we had a clinic scheduled for the staff. We were going to have 100 vaccines left over. It made perfect sense to us to take those vaccines and put them in arms. We went through a lottery. We came up with 100 residents. They were going to go through and get the vaccine, and the third-party contractual strike team showed up. We had all the doses. They showed up with 100 extra doses, and they refused to put it into the arms of IO residents because, remember the criteria? It was outside the criteria. And so the National Guard commander who was running the strike team just plain old refused to do it. And we said, well, the governor says you have to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. Well, the CDC says you have to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. And afterwards, I said, dadgummit, what I should have thought of is I should have had one of our major generals, Don Infante, go down there and say, "Listen, buddy, I'm a general for life." But that sort of is the issue. Let's look at the next slide. So here are the options. I got 3 options for us. I do have another clinic set for this Saturday. I have 350 doses coming. I've changed vendors. I said I'm not going to have any luck whatsoever with this strike team. They just aren't going to do it. So I've now changed vendors. I've set this clinic up with CVS. I haven't confirmed. I confirmed it 6 times over the weekend. But it's not going to happen. I can guarantee you it's almost 100% not going to happen. We're going to go through the motions, and come Thursday or Friday, if I still am confirmed and I've spoken to them another 7 times, and I have any belief whatsoever that it's going to happen, we'll go into panic mode, and we'll do the same thing we did last Friday. We'll all get together. We'll fill out a new consent form. I've kept all your photographs, your photo ID, and your insurance information. It's on my desk, and so we won't have to do that. I'll just be able to take those and attach it to a new consent form. But I don't put a lot of hope in this. We still have a few days for them to figure out that they aren't going to do us, but ultimately I don't think that's going to happen. So next slide. So here are the potentially 2 better solutions I have. The first solution is absolutely the right solution, and that is give me the vaccine and let me take care of it. I can do it better than you can, quicker than you can. I can get every person on this campus vaccinated in 1 day. This is the way they did it for hospitals. And so hospitals didn't have strike teams or pharmacy teams come in and administer the vaccine. They showed up, they gave them one of the cryogenic refrigerators, they plugged it into the wall, they said it's 10 a.m., we'll be back at 6 to pick up our supply. And so that's what we think is the best solution. I have a clinical team here. I have tons of nurses who would be happy to help us administer a vaccine clinic. We could get all the residents done. And so that's we believe, the very best way to do that. Leading Age, this political action committee that we work with, they have had initial meetings with the governor. The governor believes that this is probably the most effective way to do it, and so that is underway as well. That's the best solution. The most likely solution is the second one, and I think this is actually what's going to happen. The governor, who I called him as well. I didn't get through to him, but but I did call him to complain, remind him that he was supposed to be helping Florida seniors. But yesterday, the governor issued another executive order, and in this mandate, he has appointed a third party called CDR McGuire CDR Health. I don't have any idea who they are. I looked them up on Google to see if I could find anything on the web about them. There's nothing out there. I have no idea who they are. But he has contracted with this third-party agency, and what he has done is he has dropped the participating pharmacy relationship with CVS and Walgreens, and he's essentially fired them. Oh. And he said, we're not going to work with you anymore because you're so dadgum difficult. And even though I've issued executive orders and CDC has said you are going to vaccinate IL residents and CCRCs, you continue to just ignore me. So he essentially fired him. He is now contracted with this CDR, McGuire CDR Health, to do IL residents. It will be a 3-series vaccination clinic, so they'll be here on 3 different sites. the first visit, you can get the first shot. The second visit, you can get the follow-up booster or the first shot if you missed the first clinic. And then the third clinic will be to get the follow-up for anyone who got the first clinic on the second clinic. So it's the standard 3-clinic series. Regency already registered. They announced this yesterday at noon. By 1 o'clock, we were already registered. I think we probably have to be one of the first communities in the state to get registered. And that's because of the relationship we've been building with Steve at Leading Age. This is scheduled to roll out the 23rd of January. And so that's when the clinics will start. That's not Regency Oaks specific, but that is when this new third-party provider is going to start to roll it out. So you now know everything I know. Just check one more, make sure I don't have another slide I forgot about. I didn't. Okay.
Lou, let's turn on our tech. Okay. So, we just invested an awful lot of money in upgrading our Wi-Fi and tech. And so one of the consequences of that is a new system. It's called Call 'Em All. It's an amazingly simple to use and great system. I can call you, I can text you, I can do both, and it's incredibly easy to use. Here's the front sheet, and I just want to show you how easy this is. You enter your settings, you choose who you're sending it to, you get on your phone, you can create a message, you record it, send it out, you review and submit. Don just punched this add from contacts.
Which one?
This add from contacts right here. Okay, so here's oops, go back one. Probably right, maybe right here. There we go. So here's how I've broken this up. I can send it to everyone. I can send it to individuals. I can send it to groups. Here's everyone I have in the system. I have 804 people in this system. That's all the residents and all the staff. I can send it to activities and transportation, 9 people. I can break it down into my sections. Here's my AL. If I just want to talk to the aides, or if I want to talk to the nurses, or I want to talk to our POAs, our power of attorneys, and Don, just keep coming down on this slide.
Which one? This
You
one?
can, yeah, you can just roll on this, and it will keep coming down. Yeah, you, right over here, you pull this bar down. Yeah. Here's all my staff. These are my COVID staff. I can send it to Ricky's team, housekeeping. I can send it to IHS. I can send it to the dining. I can send it to my IL residents. I can break that down alphabetically by individual name, by floor, by wing. And so literally in a matter of seconds, I can select a group that I want to send it to and record a message and get a message out. It really is the newest piece of technology that is going to significantly change the way we can communicate, and I'm excited to add this to our electronic capabilities. Okay, now we really will go to questions. Thank you. All right, I'm going to hand Don this mic.
The first vaccine shot, what assurance do I have that the second shot is from the same vendor?
So the question is, if you received the first shot, what assurances do you have that the second shot is from the same vendor? You have no assurance. You do have an assurance that it's from the same manufacturer because the CDC has determined that you cannot mix the product, and so you can't take a Pfizer and then do a Moderna. So they will guarantee that. Good question. I got a microphone coming to you.
Right, when it's available, will it be here?
So yes, I will, this announcement just came out on the independent third-party provider just yesterday. We've already registered. We know that the rollout's going to start the 23rd. I'm confident that we're going to be among the first communities because we were, Steve had given us a heads up, so we were able to get in and register early. And so, yes, it will be coming here, and that is the most efficient way to do it is, I can bring you down small groups at a time, not keep you waiting in a line for 8 or 9 hours, and I'm confident that eventually is going to happen.
Ron has a question.
You just answered it, I think. You said that under your new procedure, are you just going to call us up by floors and by wings, so that not everybody shows up here, right?
Exactly. So here's how we are planning to do it. We're going to use the town hall. Because we're attempting to do 300 people, our team will probably consist of 4 to 5 shot administrators, and then a couple of people on the front end who will handle the paperwork, and then you have a guy in the back that handles the actual mixing of the serum. And so we'll have 4 to 5 stations. We should be able to do somewhere in the neighborhood of about 60 people an hour. And so that's exactly how we'll do it is, 40 people at a time, 40 people every 30 minutes. I'll call you up, have you come down, run you through the paperwork, get the vaccine, move you into the tavern or the breezeway where you have to be monitored for 30 minutes. And then get you back home.
Will it be like a lottery?
No, it's if we get this clinic, we will be able to offer it to every single resident.
Who's going to administer it?
That CDR, is that the name? CDR?
McGuire.
Yeah, CDR McGuire, CDR Health.
No, I'm saying from here.
No.
How are they going to pick the people?
No, everybody will get it. Everybody will get it.
You'll be called.
Everybody.
You'll be called how? On the phone?
Yes.
By letter? How?
Phone call. We'll make sure you don't miss it.
Fran, how rigid is the 21 and 28 day timeframes? In other words, if somehow you're slipping a few days because of the distribution difficulties.
So great question. And so here's here's what we're being told. This is very, very rigid when it comes to the booster shot. Bill was asking if there was slippage on the second shot. It's 21 days for the Pfizer, 28 days for Moderna. And here's what the CDC is saying. You can get it up to 4 days early. You cannot get it more than 48 hours after. So you have a real limited window for that second shot. Now here's the one other question that we have not heard. We've asked it. Let's say you get the first shot, but you just miss the second shot. You're in the hospital. You can't get the second shot. What do? Do you have to start all over? Do you have to wait 9 months before you can take a second shot? We don't have an answer to that. We've asked it, but currently don't have an answer. So that's...
Wayne and I were fortunate enough to go Saturday to a clinic at Baycare, and they gave us an appointment for February. It was Moderna. They gave us an appointment for February the 6th at 10:45. It ran very smoothly.
Yeah. And that's certainly the best way to do the outside appointment is where you have the ability to make an appointment and schedule it weeks after. And so if that is always an option where you don't need it right now this minute, but you can call your physician and schedule an appointment. That's good information.
On that same note, good morning.
Where are we?
I called the VA yesterday in the main hospital, and they said you can take it, and they scheduled me for Friday, and I don't even have to leave the car. He said, just drive through, show your credentials, they'll give you a shot, and then you come back in 2 weeks. They have plenty, and I said, do you have a big supply? He said, we have enough supplies. So if any veterans are here and want to go there, that's a good place to go.
What are you talking about? What place?
VA veteran, VA club.
The main one.
Yeah, Bay Pines.
All right. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
If by chance they come here Saturday, which you think is highly unlikely, and you were one of the 100 picked for the lottery, would you go first for that, like you had said?
You will go first. And so no matter when we do this clinic, whether it's this Saturday or a date in the future, the 100 residents who won the lottery will be the first residents to receive the vaccine.
And we just have to sign a new consent form, we don't have to fill out medical information.
Don't know yet because we haven't seen the new consent forms. And so we'll answer that as we get a little
Okay,
further.
thank you.
Yes.
Are you saying that you're going to honor the ones that were there before?
Yes.
I thought they did, when they went there and there was no, they couldn't get the shot, so why not start all over again?
Well,
Yeah.
no, it's the fair thing to do. We had a lottery. Everyone had a chance.
It wasn't a lottery.
Well, okay, it was a random drawing. Everyone had the same chance to participate. We did have 100 people who were lucky enough to have won the random drawing, and we've made the commitment that they get the first opportunity to get the vaccine. And it shouldn't impact any other resident. You will, if it doesn't make any difference whether you're number 98 or 198, because the plan is to vaccinate everyone.
So how do you get on the lottery?
The lottery is closed at this point. So we had a drawing last week. Everyone who was here had an opportunity to participate. So we had 100 winners. All that means is they're going to go first, and everyone else is going to go second. It's okay to go second. That's that you're not being penalized. It's okay to go second.
What do you do with the people that have underlying conditions such as wheelchairs and respiratory? Don't you think that they should go first?
No.
No, okay.
There you go.
Where do you get the consent forms? I haven't received them yet.
Yeah, so I have the CVS consent forms. I have a box that tall, but I'm not releasing them yet because I just don't think it's going to happen. If any of you are anxious and feel like you want to fill out a consent form early, if you contact Lauren, yeah, she's not here. She can't defend herself. If you contact Lauren, she can give you a consent form. But I'm honestly telling you, don't put a lot of energy and effort into this because I don't think it's going to happen. Talk to me on Thursday. Let's see where you are Thursday. I'll update you if there's any shot whatsoever of the Saturday clinic happening. I will give you. I'll release them Thursday night. I'll put them in the boxes. You can fill them out leisurely that night. Turn them in. You have more than 48 hours to turn them in. We'll be fine. But I just don't think we need to rush to do this. I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, Brent, remind them they need a picture ID card.
Okay, so yes, so we had just shy of 300 residents fill out the consent reform for the strike team. I saved all of your photo IDs and your insurance information. I already have it if you filled out the original consent form. So you will have to fill out another consent form
and I will attach your photo ID and your insurance information. If you never filled out a consent form, you're going to have to fill out a consent form, and I'm going to have to get a copy of your photo ID and your insurance card. So we'll have to do that on Friday if we think this clinic is moving forward Saturday morning. Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate everyone coming out, and thank you for your patience as we work through this.